G'day. I wasn't originally going to make a video for release today, but I was contacted by a TRD client who has a son who's wheelchair bound, and he asked if I could make up some mudguards for his son's wheelchair so they could go off on holidays just after Christmas. So it gave me sort of 2 days to make up some mudguards. Nothing terribly special about that, but it's using sort of basic calculations to work out cones, which I thought might be of interest to people. So that's basically what this video is about, is making up some octagonal cross-section or half octagonal cross-section mudguards. One of the first things I need to do is make up some templates, and that's just because I'm going to be making 4 parts up, or two lots of 4 parts, and I want to make sure that they're all uniform, because if I'm trying to fit things together in a symmetrical way, if I've got one which is slightly odd, that's not going to work too well. Now, I could use this thing. This is a trammel, or sometimes called a beam compass. This one came in a box of stuff, as a lot of stuff does for me, and it's basically a brass tip with a bit of steel in there, and a screw that you can use to adjust the position. I've used this before. It's not a bad thing. That bit of solder there, that silver bark there, is a bit of solder which someone decided they wanted to solder one of these in position. Well, I guess you could do that. I took it off because I valued the flexibility to be able to move both ends. This isn't long enough for what I want to do though. Now that's only a bit of steel rod, so there's nothing saying I couldn't find another bit of steel rod and put that in there, but instead what I'm going to do is I've marked my center point here, and I'll put a center punch there, as in not the dimple but just the center punch, to use that as a pivot, and then that's a bit of brass picture wire, and I found that stuff doesn't stretch very easily, and so it's ideal if you're going to tie a bit around a pencil and use that to swing an arc. So yeah, available in hardware shops, but it's worthwhile having a little bit just because it's useful stuff. You could use plain steel wire, I guess. It's just that this is twisted, and so it's a little bit more flexible, a little bit easier to use. But what I'm going to do, I've marked out my center position here. I'll mark out the inner and the outer, and then I'll set this up, swing my arc, and that'll give me a template. Some of you may be wondering how to work out the blank for a cone. Well, it involves a little bit of trig, but it's not all that difficult. You need to know what the diameter of the large bit of the cone is, and well, either the height or the length of that side. Okay. Then it's just a matter of geometry. Now, if you're doing a truncated cone, you just want to go from a large diameter down to a small one, say there somewhere, that's okay, because you can work out what a large cone is and then work out what a small cone is and take one away from the other. But what this is if you know what that distance there is, okay, you can work out what a circumference of a circle would be with that. Okay, because you've got this one, you know what the circumference of the circle with this is. Okay, so it's basically that one, the circumference of that one we'll call C1, the circumference of this one we'll call C2. Okay, so if you then divide C1 by C2 and multiply that by 360, that'll give you the angle of the blank, right? So if you can imagine, the blank is going to go like that, so that'll give what that angle is. That radius is this one, okay, and that's basically what you're doing. Okay, so if you cut that out and cut that bit and join those two ends up, you would get a circle of this size. Okay, and so if you only wanted a truncated cones instead of that, you wanted that, my text is running out here, you then work out what that one is, take that bit away. Okay, and that's what I'm doing to work out the size of these mudguards, because the profile of them is like that. That's easy enough, that's just a straight circle, that's a bit of flat, but that one there is actually a section of a cone. Here are my two templates. I've smoothed them down, the dotted lines there, because I had to work out which one was true, and what I eventually did was measured from my centre point out to there to pick that one, because as I'd moved the wire around, it had unrolled a little bit, and so spread. Now, you may have noticed on the punch I had a washer, and if I wasn't so impatient, I probably should have done the same here. However, there they are, and this one, that was the line where I thought I needed to cut, but I left that a little bit long just in case. And when I roll this around, like that, which is how it's going to be in reality, I'm actually 10 millimeters shy, so that's good. So I'll mark that and cut that off, and that'll give me the correct length. Now, the other thing I like to do when I'm making up templates like this is prove them out before I start cutting metal. And so what I've done, I've got a bit of cereal box and cut those out. I used to use Weet-Bix, but they stopped making my favourite flavour, so I'm now using some boring high fibre thing. But that's what I get, and that's what I want. Okay, so there's my wide bit there, that's that bit, and that's a bit of flat which I'll then form, and that's actually about the right width anyway, so the other side of this will look like that. I'm just starting to do the marking out with my templates here, and the beauty of these, of course, is that all four parts we made with the same template, and so therefore will be the same size. Now, here you can see one of the problems that I've got. This is the large part, this is the bevel either side. I need 4 of these, but they don't nest nicely. There's a quite a large gap here, and with the half circle trim piece, it's even worse. So what I've had to do is I've cut that in half, and I'm sort of just putting that in where I can to use up some of the otherwise scrap material. So that'll go there, that one will go there. I can do some other bits and pieces around, but I'm going to need 8 of these, 4 of these, and then 2 strips. Now the strips are easy because they just come off the edge, so I'm going to do those last. This is going to be a bit of a nuisance. I'm going to have to do some work with the tin snips here for the inside curves. The outside curves I can do on the bench here, but it's going to be messy and time consuming and all that sort of stuff, so I'd better get on with it. You can see here what I was saying earlier about these things not stacking nicely. These are the full half circles, and as you can see there's a considerable amount of space between them which will be wasted material. So by making them as 8 sort of quarter segments and then stacking them that way, I've saved quite a bit of material there. I've got my shapes all cut out, deburred. I've cleaned up the end with some acetone, because the first thing I want to do here is weld my 2 halves together, just so that I've got a continuous piece. You can't see it here because it's covered, but I took one of these and I scribed a line around the outside here, and I've got everything lined up, so that way I get the circle. And once I've got these 4 done, or these 4 pairs done, I can then start looking at attaching these to the bigger curved pieces. Next stage, I've bent my larger pieces, and that was just by hand, bending them into a circle shape. What I want to do now is go around and tack, and probably tack every, probably 75 millimeters, something like that. until I get everything settled in, do that for all 4, and then I can come back and tack them onto the flats. Only once I've done that and got everything, you know, pretty solid, will I then start trying to weld the seams on the outside. I started by tacking that piece to here, and then I went and tacked that to the flat, and now I'm working on putting, you know, 2 halves together here. So I've got my angle block set up and a couple of strong arm locking pliers. Strong arm is a brand that you don't see that often in hardware shops, but for professional welding places, this is usually the brand they stock. They don't sponsor me, but I just find that they're a nice, rugged and worthwhile clamp to have. So there we go. But I'm going to continue up here, and I might have to turn this around and sort of get to halfway, then turn it around. But I'm going to continue up here to tack all this in, and that way, as you can see, I've got basically a mudguard shape. I'll then come along, before I weld up the outside seams, I'll come along with a hammer and just sort of knock the seam down a little bit, just in case it's not quite even. But this should do nicely. The tyres are a balloon tyre, and so they're going to fill most of that guard, which is why it's so big. Lots of tacking and then lots of welding later, and here they are. Basically octagonal in section, and you know, the template pretty much matches what I've produced, so you know, it proves the method out. So there you go. I've got to clean these up, you know, grind these lumpy welds down, put some brackets on, but I won't bore you with that. So there you go. Thanks for watching. See you for the next one.